I have the absolute pleasure to be sitting down with the longest reigning TNA wrestling slash Impact Wrestling tag team and heavyweight champion, a true legend on the Canadian independent scene. It's such an honor to get down and sit with the walking weapon, Josh Alexander. Josh, thank you so much for taking some time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, Josh, as we are recording this interview, you are getting ready to wrestle your last Canadian independent date for the foreseeable future, right? I just love to know what's going on in your head coming into today. What were some of the factors that led to this decision for you to kind of take a step back from the independent scene?
Uh, mm, Factors that led to this decision. It's kind of been something I've been toying with at home for like the past year, I'd say, because independent wrestling isn't something I need to do financially anymore. There was a time when it was a grind, where it was like I need to get as many indie dates as I can to try to supplement my income to support my family and do all these things and build my name and all this stuff. But like in the last year, I feel like I've settled into a position where I'm known over the broad spectrum of the wrestling community. Like I've built my name. So me showing up at shows in like California and all over the place in Ontario and Alberta and stuff to build my name. I don't think I need to do that as much. And then now it feels like it needs to be something special when it does happen. So like you've heard the thing is like it's skipping my mind right now, but it's just like something makes the heart grow fonder.
Absence makes the
Yeah,
heart go
absence
fond.
is the word I was looking
Absolutely.
for. And I kind of feel like that. Like I've been around so long, I've been such a staple for so long, especially in the Ontario indie scene, that like I thought about it and it was like I'm doing all these indies and stuff. And it's because like when I started, I felt like Bobby Roode and Eric Young and all these guys got signed and they kind of they were never to be seen again. And it was from no fault of theirs whatsoever, but it's just like they ended up moving to the States and doing bigger things and stuff. And I had this ability with signing my contract where I could still do all this stuff. And I felt like I didn't want to abandon the indie scene. I wanted to keep, because it's always been a goal to build up the Canadian wrestling scene, the Ontario indie scene, to a point where it's seen by like the global wrestling community, because I feel like we have so many talented wrestlers here. It's just like for whatever reason, it's not seen. So like I kept kind of, doing these shows to see if like my name value would help, get more eyes on the product and eyes on the other people and wrestlers and stuff in these locker rooms. And I feel like I've done that. And on the other hand, I feel like if I go away, then there's another spot for somebody to come up and kind of fill that void and get the main event matches and get the opportunities against like, the people of like the caliber of me that get flown in and do these shows and stuff like that. So it's just a better opportunity for everybody. And the obvious thing is just like give my body a rest too, right? If I
Absolutely.
don't need to do it, don't travel as much, spend more time at home with my kids who are 6 and 10 now, and it's just getting busier and busier with every day. So
Absolutely. And you mentioned your kids and you have such a wonderful family and you're so proud of them. And I love to see that as well. What does it mean for you on a personal level to have got to create like some of these magical moments on television with your family?
I mean that's a dream come true, right? Like I don't think my kids realize it now. Like even at 6 and 10, I don't think they realize it. But like when they come into their teenage years and their lower adulthood and stuff like that, I hope that they can go back and see the stuff that they were able to do and be like, man, I had a pretty cool childhood. Like to be able to show up live on pay-per-view for my son Lucas when like I beat Christian and won the world championship and then had to take it away instantly and stuff like that to share that moment. And then with my son Jet coming out at Rebellion for my entrance for when I defeated Moose and finally won the championship to go on that historic reign and stuff like that. It's just cool that I get to share that. You know what I mean? And hopefully they can look back on it one day and be like, man, that was pretty awesome.
And you got the Power Town figure out now as well. Is that cool for you to see like your kids playing with your action figure? Like, do you guys have one yet or
No, it's not out yet.
not out yet?
So
Coming
we
out.
did pre-orders and stuff like that. And there was, I guess there was an issue with manufacturing. Somebody wasn't doing their job, so they got fired. And so it got postponed a little bit, but it will be coming out. And, it looks awesome. It's the highest quality of action figure and stuff. So for that to be the first figure, like I've had a micro brawler
Mhm.
before, and my son has that, which is cool to see him play with it. But you can't really do much with it because it's just stuck in one static spot. But when he gets the action figure, you're like,
That's gonna be cool.
I'll be in the pile with AJ Styles and Dominic Mysterio and all the other toys he plays with from Walmart.
And you
So
can tell them that I held the belt longer than AJ Styles,
yeah, I'll
right?
show him the T-shirt I
That's
have with his
it,
name
right?
crossed out.
And your wife also posts the greatest video of all time every year when your son gives you that vicious low blow. My God, like that's a not for you maybe, but for us watching that's a pretty funny video to see.
I'm just lucky that she was filming it so that we could get some joy out of it. It wasn't just the pain
I
involved. So
I I do love that he chants walking weapon after as you're just agony. He's like walking weapon. I
Yeah.
popped really hard at that one. So I want to talk about maybe one of the biggest stories in the wrestling world that happened this year, and that was the cross merger with TNA Wrestling and NXT Wrestling. Is that something that you like taking, you've been a fan forever, right? Did you ever think that we would live in a world where we would see the WWE working with not only other wrestling companies, but prominent wrestling companies like TNA Wrestling?
No, no, I can't say I did, but I grew up in a time where like everything was separate sandboxes at all times, other than like the kind of the ECW crossover that loosely happened before the Attitude Era. But like even then, like it's just like I never would have thought we would get to a point where TNA is featured on NXT, NXT is featured on TNA, and even like to see AEW do this stuff with New Japan. Like I always thought with TNA doing it
Yeah,
with Japanese companies and stuff like that. But just to see it with the three mainstream companies working with other companies synergistically, and I think it's just a testament to like the growth of the fan bases in the wrestling community, and I think it's giving the people what they want. Like people want to see dream matches. Like
absolutely.
this is one of the hottest topics always is like what if like Stone Cold Steve Austin in his heyday. I remember like I had the magazine. It was Stone Cold Steve Austin in 1998. What if he went one on one with Bill Goldberg? And you were like,
I remember
I
those.
was like 11, like, oh my God, the cover of this magazine's right. Like, what if that happened? It was like Austin would kick his ass for sure. But like, that's because I was still a Cole guy.
Me
But like,
too.
you know what I mean? There's people on the other spectrum that just want to make these dream matches. And now you live in a reality where that can happen. And it's
Mm.
just exciting for the fans and exciting for the product because it like freshens things up, right?
I think it's really cool too that we get to see somebody like Jordan Grace, say, for instance, show up in the Royal Rumble and not just be there, but like be prominent and be featured strongly. And like was that a cool moment for you to see one of your colleagues and someone that's so respected in the business get a moment like that in the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, and like honestly, I've talked about it before. It's just like to see how well she did and how much she was able to do. And it just like I think that like skyrocketed her to superstardom. Like she was always talented. It's just getting that platform to do it with these wrestlers that are put on this pedestal of like they're WWE women's champion caliber like female wrestlers. And like as a TNA wrestler, you always kind of know like you're looked at kind of a little bit below because your product's not as big and stuff like that. But to see her show up and kill it, like obviously she's one of the most talented wrestlers in the world, but like in that scenario to do it in front of the world in the Royal Rumble, my favorite pay-per-view, my like the one show I never miss, you know what I mean? That's my thing. And like that's like the dream come true, I think. So
Absolutely. Now, I know myself, and I'm sure a lot of other wrestling fans, we were kind of hoping that we would maybe see Josh Alexander get involved in some form of way with that. Was that something that was there any discussion about maybe having you show up? I know the takeover was in Toronto. We were all kind of hoping for it, and
mhm.
you've got that history with Ethan Page. Was there ever any, maybe conversations about you getting involved in any of the NXT stuff?
I think there was definitely conversations. I think it was definitely, something that was wanting to happen from one side or the other. It's just it never transpired up until this point. You never say never though in wrestling. And I'd be happy to do it just because, like I said, like for the fans, it's really cool. And I think I'm a fan first and foremost. Like that's the only reason I do this and put my body through this because I love it so much. So selfishly it'd be cool, just to mix it up with different people on a different platform. But if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But it definitely would be cool.
Absolutely. And this year we've seen you get to mix it up with Joe Hendry. We've seen Joe featured as well in that crossover. You guys had a fantastic match at Victory Road. You
Mhm.
gave him one of his biggest wins of his career so far. There's a lot of people that are kind of noticing a similarity with you and Joe and your rise with TNA, where you had that title tease and it kind of got pulled away a little bit. And now with people are like, oh, we want the belt on Joe. Like, do you see like a similarity in the rise of like different characters, but like with that title and the fans clamoring for Joe right now?
I could certainly see a similarity there, but I think it's just a similarity over the entire history of the business for a babyface champion coming up. You're always going to almost get there and have it taken away. And it's just to see if the fans want it more. And if they want it more, you keep pulling it back, pulling it back, pulling it back. And all of a sudden, once, you finally achieve that goal of winning that match, like a la Cody Rhodes, not defeating Roman, the first WrestleMania, having this year-long chase finally to see if he can get it back. And then the fans are even more hungrier for it. Like I've said it before, when I won the world championship originally and Moose took it away from me, and like, the better part of wrestling, the wrestling community on social media just like poo-pooed all over it because they didn't like it or whatever. And it seemed like they hated the whole idea. But then like by the time the payoff happened 7 months later, where I finally, reclimb the mountain, knock moose off the top. Like it seemed like it was way more well received than the first time around. So it seemed like it was all worth it and more, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it worked out. You had one of the greatest title reigns in the history of the company, and even in wrestling, I will say, like the quality of matches that you were putting on with everybody, it's phenomenal to see, and we look forward to seeing more of that in the future. I just have a couple more quick questions for you here. One of the biggest nights of your career, it has to be back at Bound for Glory when you worked with Christian. You won that title, and then all the stuff with Moose happened after. But as a fan that grew up watching wrestling, and especially with Christian being Canadian and from our area, how big of a deal was that for you to get in the ring with him? And we also saw a little bit of a tease before that with you and Kenny Omega. Was there ever any indication that you might get Kenny as well, or?
Yeah, yeah, like that certainly was a tease for something to come in the future. All issues, I think it's pretty well known that Kenny's body was pretty beat up at that time. So by the time, he dropped the belt to Christian, he did the little business he could do while his body was still there, and then off and went to recovery. And I think he returns in January now after an over a year out of the ring. You know what I mean? Like you can't wrestle that style at that level and put on the kind of matches Kenny Omega was putting on for like a half a decade straight through New Japan and AEW and not have it take a toll on your body. Like there is a sacrifice involved in that. So I completely understand that. And as I've already said, never say never in wrestling. So that match will be something that I'll hope happens for the rest of my career because I think Kenny Omega is one of the best wrestlers of all time. But like the Christian thing, the entire build to that match was just completely genuine for me. Like it wasn't like I had to show up and be like, what am I going to say in this promo? Like it's very easy. I grew up in a town called Caledon East, which was 20 minutes away from Orangeville, Ontario. So when I watched Royal Rumble in like 2000, and it was the tables match with the Dudleys, and Christian comes out and or I can't remember, was it Christian in that one, but like the TLC matches and stuff like that. It was just like, or the ladder match that, at No Mercy or whatever it was. Like when Christian came into prominence with Edge and stuff, I'm like, these guys are from Orangeville. Like this is insane. And to have me main event the biggest pay-per-view of the year, not even a year after I go singles on my own for the first time, to ascend that from like being just a guy that singles, we don't know what we're going to do with him, to 8 months later main eventing the main pay-per-view against like a TNA legend, like a first ballot Hall of Famer. All these things you could say about Christian, like it's one of those pinch me moments where you're just like, I can't believe I'm in this position, but I'm here and I'm lucky that I'm getting this opportunity. I'm going to make the best of it. I was very fortunate to have that happen. So
Absolutely. It was a great match as well. The last couple of questions I'm going to ask you here, you talked about that Kenny Omega match possibly still happening in the future. We are seeing this wonderful thing called Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling right now, where we are seeing the wrestling world come together, and we're seeing such a spotlight put on the Ontario and the Canadian scene in general, which has just got such an unplucked gem of diamonds and all throughout it. How important was it for you to be on those shows, and just your overall relationship with Scott D'Amore?
it's super important. First and foremost, because of my relationship with Scott D'Amore. Scott was somebody that I had zero relationship with almost until like I had said hello and goodbye to him at shows for 15 years. And then he signs me to a contract and we start working together. And, 2, 3 years in, I start to develop this relationship with him where like he's like mentoring me, getting me ready, trying to push me and give me opportunities to see if I'm going to crumble. And, it's like I've always said, give me the ball. And if I drop it, then so be it. But if you give me the ball and I don't drop it, I'm going to show you what I'm made of, what I'm capable of. So Scott was somebody that heard that, and he was like, fine, we'll see, we'll give him the ball and see what happens. And like I never let him down. You know what I mean? So you're just lucky to have people in this business that can believe in you, and if they don't believe in you, at least give you a shot first and foremost. And Scott was that guy for me, like because I've had people in this business that I've worked with that have been like, you should be doing way more. You should be doing all this stuff, blah, 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 up until the point where I got signed up at TNA. So for had that company and Scott be the one that takes a chance on me to give me that opportunity, that's something I'll never forget. So, we have this great relationship. He obviously gets let go by TNA and he starts this new venture. And like the second it starts, it's like not even a question. It's like, I'll be a part of this. I want to be a part of this. I want to work with you some more because you've done all this for me. If I can give back in any way, like whatever you need me to do on these shows. And like the same thing happened at MLP. I show up and I'm not just a wrestler. I'm also a producer. I'm also helping with all these other things backstage. And that's opportunities to help me grow and build my resume. So when I'm done in ring competition, I'll have this experience so that I can go on and have another job in the wrestling business, and I'm very grateful for that. So it's just awesome for the Canadian wrestling scene because I wouldn't say MLP is an indie.
No,
Like
absolutely no.
from one aspect is an independent because they don't have a roster that's signed just to them exclusively. But on the other end, the production value and everything else that goes into that show is on the level of any television product there is out there. And it's run like a television product, like of a wrestling product. So you're not showing up and just reading a card and putting your match together. You have a producer, you have like a television truck that you got to get with for like all the shots and stuff to make sure it gets like, and so it's great for any Canadian wrestlers that get a chance to do it because that's experience that you can then parlay into a television company because it's the exact same thing.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I don't know too many indies that have strongly implied that they may run the Maple Leaf Gardens arena as well, right? So
I mean, I don't even know if they've applied it, but it would certainly make a lot of sense, right? Maple Leaf Wrestling, you got to go back to the home.
get that
So,
ramp out, right?
yeah.
The last question I want to ask you, Josh, I'm not going to pry into your business because you've got the wrestling world talking right now, but I'm sure that you've been doing a lot of reflecting
Mhm.
as you come up to your contract coming to an end. Do you have some moments that you look back at during your run with TNA that just like really are personal and make you smile, make you happy to look back on?
It's almost all of it. Like I can't. I started and 3 months later, I'm tag team champions with like a guy that I was tagging with for 10 years in the Indies, doing these road trips, grinding, making zero money, just trying to like live the dream and chase this seemingly impossible goal together. And then we get to TNA and we have the a historic tag team run that, is in the record books forever as the longest running tag team champion. So I got that. And then like me coming up as a TNA fan, I was an X Division fan through and through. Like it was Low Ki, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, all these guys. So to have this X Division run that is looked upon as being a historic run because of the caliber of matches I got to put on, like an Iron Man with TJP,
Right.
the crazy match with Chris Sabin, Jake something at Emergence was one of the like my favorite matches I've ever had, and then just to go into the world championship thing that I never thought possible. Like for me, when I started wrestling, I wanted to go to a school. I just wanted to touch the ring. I didn't have any intention of training. Then they made me train. And then I was like, okay, I want to have a match. And I was like, oh, I want to get paid to have a match. Oh, I want to wrestle a main event. It was just like building blocks of small goals because I never came into this thinking it was possible. And now for it to just like all those little goals being achieved along the way to be, you know, considered one of the best wrestlers in the world and a hot free agent and all this other stuff. It's just I'm very grateful for all of it. So
Absolutely. And I'm going to say, from a personal standpoint, I'm very honored to get to announce your last foreseeable future Ontario independent match right now. You've got the wrestling world buzzing about what your future is going to be. So I just want to give you an opportunity. If there's anything you'd like to say to any of your fans out there right now that have been along for the journey, what the future is for you. We're all along for the ride and we're all excited for you.
it's a blanket like thank you for all the support over the years from every Ontario indie fan that watched me. My first year wrestling in Cambridge and Brantford every Thursday and Sunday night, and all the other indies I did along the way. Like my journey's been very organic in the sense that if you look at my like Twitter following or anything like that, it was built by going to this indie here and getting 20 new followers that saw me wrestle at this show in Chicago and then seeing me wrestle at this show here. And it's just slowly built over time. I haven't had any viral moment that's like clicked where I've just all of a sudden gotten 100,000 followers or anything like that. It's been very organic and it's just been off the hard work because like when I show up, I'm just like I don't care if there's 500, 5,000 in that in attendance at that show. You're gonna get the same Josh Alexander because I take a lot of pride in what I do. So when I go out there and you see me give everything I have, regardless of like the caliber of show or the caliber of opponent or anything like that, for me it's just to make sure all the fans get their money's worth and they've all given it back to me tenfold and the support I've had over the years. And I just hope they continue to follow me on my journey wherever it might take me. And I just promise to be the same Josh Alexander I've been the entire time. That's it.
Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate you taking time with us today on Count It Out. Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank
We
you.
look forward to what the future holds for you. Just big thank you, man. Just that's all I got. This is it. On behalf of Josh Alexander, I'm Tyler, and you've been counted out.